Hey folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. If you happen to be new here, my name is Mike Messier. This is Mike Messier, parenthesis, one pro wrestling and sports fan YouTube channel. Normally I talk pro wrestling and sports. I also do Mike's Instant Movie Reviews. I also have my movie, my short films, and my feature film, Blood Sugar Sedace, or somewhere in this channel. If you don't know, I've been having trouble with YouTube recently, so I'm just kind of doing this for fun at this point. So I've recently listened to the audiobook series that began The Face on the Milk Carton. Now, I knew nothing about this audiobook. I found it on Hoopla, which is an app. If you don't know, Hoopla is a wonderful app. What the application and app, it took me a long time to figure out what app even stood for, but it's application apparently. And I'm looking for my own book, which happens to be on the fucking app, and I can't find it, of course. But in any regard, let's talk about this movie or this book, this audio book. I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. I found it to be quite interesting. I found the book to be quite an interesting read. God damn it all. And what's it all about? It's about this young girl who's 13 years old. I took this is my book, by the way, that's on Hoopla, okay? My wonderful book. That's also an audio on Hoopla. Um, I took this story to be taking place in the mid to late 1980s. Basically, at that time, these milk cartons were putting a lot of young people, missing young people, abducted children on the milk carton, their faces, trying to help find them. And this young girl's in not elementary school, middle school, and she looks at the milk carton, and she's even lactose intolerant. So she steals the milk carton from her friend, and she sees her own face on the milk carton as a young girl. And she's pretty convinced that this is her. And she goes on this kind of journey to discover that she is the girl in the milk carton and what brought her to not know that. And so, should you listen to this book, this audio book? Should you not? I think so. I think it's double thumbs up. I'm not a big guy like listener to, young adult fiction or kids books or whatever the fuck, but I did enjoy this book almost as much as I enjoy my own book. But I did find this quite a gripping story. And then I discovered right at the end of this story of the young lady discovering I guess she's actually 14, not 13 when she discovers this. When, because there's some disputes about her age, she doesn't even know her correct age. When she finds out that who she thinks are her parents, who she's thought were her parents her whole life, are actually not her parents, then she has to go and figure out who she is and what's so forth, and then she actually has to decide, does she want to get in touch with her actual parents, her actual family, or does she just want to leave it all alone? And it's a pretty gripping story. She has kind of a boyfriend character named Reeve. Her name is Jenny, or Janie. She actually has two names. And if she stays where she is, part of the situation is that she can't get it. She doesn't have a birth certificate, and she'll never be able to get a driver's license or drive properly. It's kind of amazing that she's gone through school this whole time without actually having to produce a birth certificate. I don't know if that's a hole in the story or whatnot, but I guess it is. Then right at the end of this audiobook experience, you're kind of like gripped, like, I want to know what happens next. Well, lo and behold, the audiobook voice on Hoopla tells us, guess what, folks? There's a sequel. And the sequel is titled Whatever Happened to Janie. So I'm like, oh my God, now I got to listen to the sequel. And the sequel is kind of cool because it takes you inside the family that she got taken away from. And there's four kids in this family, there's adults, and they, had to deal with the fact that they had a missing child for 13 years. I guess it's 12 years actually. And the other siblings, and what the writer does quite well, I think, as I do in my own novel. Did I plug it enough? She has a wonderful way, Carol, this lady Carol, the writer. She has a pretty good grasp on children characters. Like, it's not condescending, but yet, these are kids, so they're kind of emotional, and sometimes kids connect things in different ways than adults. And I think that the writer does a nice job of doing that justice. So I really enjoyed the second story quite a bit. Like I would say that I really was pretty gripped. I think the second book, whatever happened in Janie is equal quality to the first one. By the way, these books are not new. Apparently, these were published in the 90s. The third one, I want to say, is kind of the third one is titled The Voice on the Radio. This is one where I might have a bit of a feeling like Fonzie jumps the shark. If you're not familiar with that term, Fonzie jumps the shark is a reference to an episode of the TV series Happy Days where the show was getting quite deep into its seasons. I think Richie had already left the show, the main character played by Ron Howard. Henry Winkler, the Fonz, was kind of carrying the show. And they literally, as the kids say, had Fonzie jump a shark like he was water jet skiing as a stunt and had to jump over a shark. So television pundits a long time ago came up with this term where if a show or a series, a creative narrative series gets desperate in trying to come up with stuff to entertain the audience, they jump the shark, meaning they've past the point of no return. They're just bringing out stuff just for the sake of doing stuff. They're getting desperate, right? I kind of feel that that happens with The Voice on the Radio. The character of Reeve, who's been like kind of this, solid, just boyfriend guy, just kind of, he's the boyfriend of Janie, but he's just kind of goes along with everything, and he's a good character, but they try, the writer tries to make him the star almost or pretty much of the third book. And the way that she does that is by having him do a heel turn. For the wrestling fans, that when a good guy becomes a bad guy, it's a heel turn. And she kind of has Reeve, although she does, give him the justification of sorts that he was, pressured into coming up with creative content for the radio. He's at a college radio station, Hills College in Boston. Look at how nice my forearms are looking, by the way, nice and cut. But it's just like the book gets very meta. If the term meta, I think I understand it to mean like when a book or a movie references itself. I guess you could say something like The Producers, the Broadway musical, or when, for more recent stuff, Curb Your Enthusiasm, when it mentions the Seinfeld series, like when Jerry Seinfeld and Elaine, Julius Louis-Dreyfus and Kramer and Michael Richards and Jason Alexander, when the gang from Seinfeld comes on to Curb Your Enthusiasm, 20 years later to reinvent their characters, that's meta. That's when like a work of art references a related work of art, and it can often be very mixed. I would say the movie adaptation referencing being John Malkovich, and even John Malkovich itself, those are metas that worked, cases of meta. I don't think that this works. I think that the third book, gets by because we've already, at least me as a listener, I've already invested so much into Janie and her two sets of parents, and to Jody, and to the Brian and Brendan, the twins, and Steven, all these sibling characters. Also, I do like the fact that this book takes place on the East Coast of the United States. So little geographical nuances like the difference between New Jersey and Connecticut and Boston, they're all kind of in there, and I enjoyed that. And also just the fact that this is a suburban story. Like, sometimes the suburbs or the middle class of America gets a bad rap, like it's not that exciting, or it's milk toast, or just people don't have problems. But I thought this was a good, story, sort of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where you can take people from the suburbs and make them interesting. Not that there's a Phoebe Cates in any of this, but I just found that, I liked the stories. What can I tell you? And I did like the Janie character, and I mean, even when she's cruel to her birth mother in the second book and she says some very mean things, I found that, kids can react that way. When they feel cornered or when they feel pressured, they will act in a nasty way sometimes. So I just enjoyed all the books. But the third book, I wish that they could have kept the third book but eliminated about 40% of it, which is a high percent. But basically, the whole deal with Reeve turning heel, Reeve on the radio the pop culture references, specifically to Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots, caught me off guard because it felt like the series of books had like a time jump. I felt like the first book felt like 1985 to 1987, and by the time we got to the third book, it felt like we're referencing 1995 or 1993 or 94, just with the, like I said, the references to Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots. I guess you could say that's 1992 if you wanted to be generous, but I think by the time they were making those comparisons of those two bands, it was more like 94, 95. And I feel like I'm not sure the author, how many years it took her to write this series of books. And there's a fourth one coming up, which is why, in case you're wondering, I'm not doing this review live because all the people in my chat would just want to talk about pro wrestling. WrestleMania 2025 is coming up when I'm recording this. And basically, if I were to do this as a live video, people would disrupt my flow talking about these books because most of the people haven't heard the fucking books or read the books. So this video that I'm doing that you're enjoying currently is basically me reaching out to people that don't know me and maybe just looking for someone else who's listened to these books. So by and large, I really did enjoy the books. And as you can see, I'm probably a lot older than the youth audience. For whatever reason, I never came across these books in my youth. Now that I'm an established, wonderful young adult writer myself, okay, I guess I should be listening to these other books for inspiration, but I already wrote my goddamn book. So in any event, I do give the writer a thumbs up. I do say that the third one is the weakest link. I just didn't buy it. I just didn't buy Reeve turning heel. I didn't like the meta-ness. Also, the whole thing with his radio show, his Visionary Assassins sounded kind of contrived. That's like the name of a rock band that Reeve kind of befriends, the Visionary Assassins. It sounded like the writer was kind of reaching outside her grasp. I didn't really think that she was terribly connected to collegey stuff and like her attempts at coming up with it didn't feel like she was connected to the high school, to the college experience as much as she was to the middle school, high school experience, in my opinion. I think she tried to expand the story, but in a sense, she kind of betrayed the Reeve character. And I know that that's the idea. I mean, the idea is that who can you trust? And even your loyal boyfriend is capable of making mistakes and all that happy horse shit. But I just felt like this was a jump the shark thing. I feel the stronger portions of this book, although it's hard to get it away from, Reeve at the radio station, is just the ongoing issues between the two sisters now, Jody, who's the spring sister that wasn't kidnapped, and her slightly younger sister. I thought that was a good contrast. How Janie is dealing with having all this love in her heart for these four parents, how the adults are all kind of crumbling a bit and the kids are kind of rising to the challenge. I thought that was good. So I did think a lot of stuff in the third book was good, but I think really for me, the first and second book are super strong. The third one falls a little bit. I just realized there's a fourth book, so I'm going to start listening to that. And there's like a fourth and a half book, like a fifth additional Janie, what Janie found and what Janie saw. So I'm going to listen to them. I'm very curious how the writer does with the fourth and a half book, but I guess my expectations are a little bit skewered now because the third one, I just felt like, man, we could have left this alone with two books. And that's about it. In the meantime, if you're finding this video and you've never seen me before, you can say, well, gee whiz, Mike, what the hell have you ever done with your life? Well, look at my short films, Mike's short films, Mike's wonderful stuff, MikeMessier.com. Messier Mantras, my wonderful television series, Messier Peace Theater, the Disregard the Vampire, Mike Messier documentary. You're saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, I want to see if you've ever acted in a feature film. Okay, assholes, go to Tubi and find The Mick and the Trick. I play Hank, or Delante in that one. I played Delante in The Mick and the Trick. I play in Mr. Birthday on Amazon Prime. I play Hank. I play Eugene in Hard Luck with Mario Van Peebles, director Wesley Snipes, and Sybil Shepherd. I played her son. If you want to see my action with the Meryl Streep, you can go see Hope Springs, the Elizabeth Shue scene, all these goddamn things that I've done. You can find them and cross-reference my wonderful abilities to anyone else in the world. So that's it. It's Mike Messier, your buddy, with my review. Thumbs up for these books, but kind of a wavering thumbs up for the third installment. MikeMessier.com.